Hello, my friends. Welcome back. We are going through the large swords, searching them for some philosophical ideas that might be expressed in the weapon stories in NieR Automata. And we got through Iron Will, Fang of the Twins, and Beast Lord. I didn't get through as much as I thought I would originally for that last episode, but we're going to jump into Phoenix Sword and see if we can't make some more progress today. One day, a hawk lost its way in the woods. Its proud wings soon grew weak as it tried in vain to find its way home. As death approached, a songbird took pity on the hawk, and it did its best to offer aid. The songbird slowly nursed the hawk back to health. The beautiful sight of the small white bird nestled in the elegant wings of the hawk soon made it the envy of all the creatures in the forest. When the hawk was fully healed, it knew it was time to leave the forest, but before flying away, it promised the songbird it would one day return. In turn, the songbird gave the hawk one of its shining feathers as a token of friendship. As promised, the hawk eventually returned, but with a human in tow. "Well done," said the human. "These feathers will sell for a great price at the market." Then he slew the songbird in one blow and plucked its carcass clean. So that sucks. It's completely ungrateful. I guess we can infer from this that the hawk was actually a hunting hawk, so the human was definitely the owner of the bird. It was a domesticated bird. I don't know. I think in the United States, since we're such an individualistic society, we often hear things like, you don't owe nothing to nobody. There's no such thing as being indebted to anyone in the United States, because ultimately we can just say, hey, you're the one who decided to do that. I shouldn't have to do anything in return. I shouldn't have to feel any kind of remorse. I shouldn't have to feel any kind of guilt. No matter what anyone does for me, I should never feel bad if I decide to screw them over. And, you know, I think that's a really unhealthy way of thinking. And it's a very commonplace way of thinking in an individualistic society. People get really upset when they think that they owe somebody something. But I mean, kind of the nature of being alive is that you are indebted to the things around you. Different structures, different people, different resources, the fact that certain things exist, all support you and keep you alive. And when something goes out of its way to be helpful to you, to support you in the way, in a real way, in a way that you actually need, to then turn around and say, or to take the attitude that you don't owe anything to them because it makes you feel bad. It makes you upset to think that you actually have to act in some kind of charitable manner. It is essentially denying the reality of how humans live, how they interact, how they survive, both in the world and in the societies and the social structures that are created around them. You can't get away from the fact that humans are social animals. And, you may not like the wording of debt. You may not want to feel any guilt. You don't have to feel any guilt. But I think to a certain extent we do have to recognize that when we're supported by others, it creates an ethical duty to at least do right by those people. You don't necessarily have to prop them up and do everything for them and support them, but I mean, at the very least, you need to not screw them over. You need to treat them fairly. And, if you treat everything like it's just some kind of contract, or like some kind of everyone's out for themselves, acting in their own quote-unquote rational self-interest or out of selfishness, and so then you suddenly start thinking, oh, I can just, say screw off to anyone who helps me because they did it for themselves, not for me, even though I was the one that was helped. Even if everything points to the contrary, that they actually did want to help you, want to value you in that way. I mean, it just takes a certain kind of internal insecurity to take honest and genuine help and turn that on its head and say, no, you were actually being bad, or, not caring about me at all, so I can screw you over. And people think that, and there are real people in this world who think that that's the smartest way to be, and that doing whatever's best for them economically will naturally result in the best outcome. And because they're so focused on that, they lose track of the fact that people acting in supposed self-interest, big air quotes on self-interest rather than like harmful selfishness, that they're actually creating the best society, creating goodness overall in people's lives. And when you take on that kind of thought, you can sweep any harm you cause to other people under the rug by simply saying, I'm the rational one. I'm acting in my own self-interest. Everyone else should do the same. Everyone else is doing the same, so why does it matter? I think that's just a cop-out. I think it's a cop-out that comes from a very insecure place, and you can rationalize it all you want. But if you hurt someone in the name of not actually hurting anyone, or you don't care about hurting them because you think everyone's acting selfishly, so you get to act selfishly too, and that's rational, you're really just running away from the fact that we're all connected, and that we all have a certain burden of supporting each other, and that just comes from being a social animal. Anyway, that was a rant. Let's move on to the Type 4O blade. Development Journal 0504 Takada. I've come up with an incredible idea. Something no one has ever done before. I'm going to start testing it out first thing in the morning. 0704 Takada. The boss turned down my idea of infusing metallic alloys with magical elements. Thrice damned fool! Doesn't he see how much money we could make from this? 1201 Takada. Things aren't going well. My hair is falling out. I think it's the stress. I've got to find a way to make this project succeed, and soon. 1215 Fujita. I looked over the data, but couldn't work out the problem. I'm not giving up, though. With Takada dead, it's up to me. I'm the only one who can carry on his work. So, I mean, in the Drake and NieR universe, magic is 100% super real. It's just really far removed from where we are in the timeline. The only real evidence is that there is angelic script used when androids are not able to read or understand machine language, and little angelic script from the early Drakengard and the little bit in NieR games are shown on the detail work on 9S's hacking animation. So I guess when it says infusing magical elements, it's literally talking about magic, and that's not an allegory for anything. It's not a metaphor. But I guess the real interesting part comes in handing the baton off to Fujita here, because this person was pursuing some goal, endlessly, constantly, obsessively, and was killing himself doing it, and became so hyper-focused on it that he lost track of anything else that was going around. And because he died, because of the emotional connection that this Fujita had to Takeda, that problem, that hyper-focus on what is probably a fruitless or pointless endeavor, maybe because at this point in NieR, or whatever part of the timeline that's actually supposed to be, the magical elements aren't actually real anymore. Maybe they've lost connection. Maybe the weird demonic disease that turned everybody into salt from the original NieR has lost any hosts, so there's no more magic, no more demon element flying through the air. But that's all deep lore stuff, so we can probably leave that behind. I think the point is to just be cognizant of all the factors that surround an issue. If you become hyper-focused on any one pursuit, even if it's something awesome like philosophy or science, you can lose track of what you're supposed to be, what you're really supposed to be achieving. Picture's just that same circuit board. A lot of these pictures do repeat. Alright, let's see if we can, let's get through the Type 3 blade before we wrap this episode up. The greatsword was known for the intense pain it inflicted upon its victims. This is what drove the man to carry it despite its weight, for he knew it would make others fear him, and thus he could avoid needless conflict. Is this also Berserk? This might also be a Berserk. The man's reputation spread through the village despite never having drawn the blade. It's not Berserk. "Don't make him use that horrid weapon," the villagers whispered. The man smiled at this, for he knew that fear was the best path to peace. That is very Machiavellian. Is very much the Machiavellian idea that it is better to be feared, to make people scared to fight, and that will create the best peaceful society, because no one will attempt at conflict. No one will see that they can achieve goals through violence if everyone's too afraid to use it. Soon, the man had craftsmen forge a host of similar weapons. He gave them to all the other villagers in hope it would force people to solve conflicts in words instead of violence. And his plan worked for a while. So that's getting into something really modern. Give everyone a gun and you'll have the most peaceful society ever, because everyone will be worried about getting shot all the time. And in a sense, everyone's just waiting for that pot to boil. Keeping all sides in check is simple when no one uses their power. But once that seal is broken, the end is nigh. Thus did the peaceful village transform itself into a living hell over the space of a single night. So this kind of takes this society that if everyone is powerful and armed and has the greatest weapons, you know, this could really be connected to the gun debate, possibly. If everyone has the same amount of power, of violence and death over each other, then no one will use it. Everyone will think it's some kind of mutually assured destruction. And so it will forever stay in that nice, equal footing. But I think to a certain extent, this is... it's naive because it doesn't understand that humans crave change. That when there is tension, eventually something snaps. And you cannot, like, a human cannot survive under a stressful environment for so long before something pops off. And eventually, this stress often does result in people trying to exercise violence in order to make the conflict, make the source of the stress result in their favor. I mean, it's not uncommon already in current society where people think they're under attack and under stress, and then they know that if they take their violent action, they'll be killed for it. They're not going to succeed, but that doesn't matter in their mindset, because you need to release that violent impulse if you feel like it's pressuring, if you feel like a violent impulse is pressuring you. And it may come off in different ways. People can definitely overcome those things through dialogue, through therapy, through a lot more peaceful means. But if those aren't available, if literally the source of the stress, the source of the violence is everywhere, then people aren't likely going to see a way out. And that's why fear-mongering can be so dangerous in a society. When you let fear spread, when you really publicize it, and you make some demographic out to be the enemy of enemies, like, it turns into an all-present specter. And nothing that, in that situation, if you let the rhetoric get that far, there's nothing in that very poor, distressed person's mindset that's going to keep them from seeing that violence boil over. And a lot of people have the idea, they're very, very thumotic people who want to be recognized for their honor and their power and their capability. They'll probably see that as an opportunity to be recognized by society in some way and act out violently. And that goes all the way back to Plato's Republic. People who are in tune with violence, who want to be seen as superior, who want to be recognized for their skill socially, and who want to be active in solving problems, they can pose a very powerful but also a very dangerous aspect of how social dynamics can evolve. And Plato's entire Republic is, how do you manage those people? Doesn't matter, the philosopher kings don't matter, and your average person who just wants to have a roof over their head, a full belly, and a family, that doesn't really matter. You got to be able to manage those people who are just naturally in tune with both seeking honor and respect, but also being connected to violence because of that pursuit. Well, I guess I'll end that here. That was enough of a ramble. That's a really touchy subject, and probably anyone who heard that rant, something in there is gonna get you mad no matter who you are. So just remember that we're all connected in your mutual hatred of me and my ramblings. And in that way, we can still form a loving community that all recognizes that I make people mad. But that'll be the end of it for today. This one's gonna run a little bit longer, I think. But just for fun, I did get the robot bunny down. So let's go ahead and blow him up just for the end of the video. If you did like it, make sure to actually hit the like button. That really helps me out. It shares the video around with the other people who might want to see it. Ow! And go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you like what you're seeing and you want to see more. I have new videos every Saturday. You know, all those things people say at the end of YouTube videos in order to sound cool. Oh, there we go. Blew him up. And I leveled up. That's very rare. And this is a machine core. Pick that up. Well, thank you so much again for joining me, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. Once again, I'm sure I said that before. And as always, stay true. Audio sync. Don suku don. Don don suku don don. Don don suku. Don suku. Don suku don. And back up to large swords.